A very good morning to you there, and welcome to the newspaper review here on Idea TV, where we bring you stories that matter around innovation, around education, around development, around research, around science, around technology, and of course, through all the specs of society. My name is Cynthia Bassi, and I'm glad to have you join me this morning, or have you start your morning with me. And we're going to be looking at papers from Punch and Vanguard and Guardian these days, and other dailies, what they are saying this morning in business, in innovation, of course, policy. We know what is happening in Nigeria right now, between Nigeria and the US, and of course in education and all other places. So settle down. I want you to start your morning with me. Okay, so the first newspaper I have here with me is from the Daily Sun. And the biggest story here, taking the front page, is Tinubu to Trump. What Tinubu is saying to Trump, President Tinubu is saying to President Trump, the US president, that we will defeat terrorism. Says government determined to build prosperous, inclusive, and resilient Nigeria. We've opened diplomatic channels of communication with US. That's what the federal government is saying as well. U.S. proposed airstrike plans for Nigeria. And if we go up, we see that PDP, another big story here, PDP convention, Makinde, Damagum, Rally State Chairman. Don't forget, karma is real, Chairman tells Anyanwu and others. That's also trying to prepare for the Anambra elections that will be coming up soon. And then we have another story here. And this is on page 25, Market Panic deepens as stocks lose 2.5 trillion in 4 days. Investors jittery over Trump's invasion threats. I guess the Trump decision of Nigeria is shaking the country in different sectors, in markets, in economy, in and also ambassadorial positioning. And then we have here on page 27, if we go downward to the Daily Sun, Governor Mba, Tinubu on mission to restore dignity, excellence of police and security agents. We know that President Tinubu is sanctioning security agents, especially the police, over poor trainings, and he vows that trainings must be carried out, and is part of his the Renewed Hope regime as an economic reform. And then we see still downwards on the Daily Sun newspaper, we see that page 26, you can find this on page 26, separating AGF from Minister of Justice won't stop politicization of office. That's from Dr. Ode, the new minister. And then moving to my right, Abia and Akwa Ibom partner to link states with railway. And that's another one for innovation here, things we like to talk about and things we like to see. And then we see, still on page 26 on the front newspaper, we see health workers issue 2-week nation strike notice. And I guess that's it for the Daily Sun newspaper. Let's see what the Nation newspaper is saying today. Still the big story taking the front page is Tinubu. Tinubu will defeat terrorism, secure every part of the country. I guess since the designation that Nigeria is a country of particular concern from the president of the US, it has been shaking the country. It has been shaking the country's terrain in different areas, in different aspects. And Nigerians have been trying to see how, especially our leaders have been trying to see how they can engage constructively, how they can engage strategically, and of course diplomatically. And what I always say is that this is the time that the US and Nigeria should come and have a civil dialogue, a very constructive and strategic dialogue. Genocide we don't know about genocide, we can't say for sure, but we know that killings are going on in Nigeria. and we do not want that. We want our country to be secure. But moving on, we see on still on the Nation's newspaper, we see that FEC rolls out approvals 4 billion naira for Lagos Ibadan Road Phase 2. This is another one for innovation here. And Maitama 2 District, Judges Residence, and also $396 million loans for Northern IDPs, Sokoto Health Project as well, and the concession of Port Harcourt International Airport, and Presidential Task Force to drive dirty December. This sounds good, but these are things we are seeing. We're seeing so many approvals being rolled out here for innovation in Nigeria, and this is what we like to see. And you can find this on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. And then still at the top of the paper, page 6 and page 4. On page 6, we see that Makinde approves 88 billion road projects, and on page 4, Nigeria targets 32 emission cuts by 2035. And if we go downwards a little, we see tariffs, imports, restrictions, others for review, new phase of economic reform underway. The federal government yesterday said it would undertake a comprehensive review of the country's fiscal and monetary policies in the next phase of its macroeconomic reforms. We're seeing so many reforms in Nigeria going on, so many reforms, and the new phase of reforms is to consolidate the globally acclaimed current economic growth of our country, as well of our contribution to the global GDP. Forum of State Chairman Bak Damagun PDP convention. This one, Lamido Street. Okay, we moving on to the next newspaper on Vanguard. Vanguard newspaper, we see that on the front page, okay, we have the Vanguard newspaper here, and the biggest story here on the front page is still on the controversial statements, like it's been said, the controversial statements and how it is shaking Nigeria. And this is one of the effects of it. The U.S. Congress targets Miyetti Allah for visa bans and asset freezes for the alleged Christian genocide, and Nigeria not panic mode. Not in panic mode, that's what the federal government is saying. Federal government says it has open discussion with US. I guess that's what most Nigerians are calling for, and what the leaders in Nigeria are calling for a proper dialogue, a diplomatic conversation to see how we can settle this issue and end this crisis in Nigeria, the supposed Christian genocide. And we are going to defeat, according to the president says we are going to defeat terrorism, and we'll have his word for it. And the U.S. military also draws up strike plans against Nigeria. We saw that the U.S. military have rolled up 3 phases of this strike on how they plan this invasion into Nigeria. And here they outline heavy, medium, and light attacks. That's the 3 phases the U.S. military are planning for the invasion of Nigeria if the killings of Christians do not stop anytime soon. And we go up and we see in page 14 here, we can find this in page 14, Anambra Showdown 2025, Anxiety as Soludo 2 women, 13 others test might tomorrow. Mba, Fubara and Biodun worry over deplorable state of police training college. This is on page 7. I guess this is what the president is also pushing for as well, for the training of security personnel and police men. And then we see on page 8, you can find on page 8, economy records strong growth. Okay, are we sure the economy is really recording strong growth? And if it is it showing in the life of the people? That's what the former president, the former vice president of Nigeria, Osinbajo, was talking about, that there's so many economic rollouts and so many ratings, so many growth percent, so many growth rates, but it is not showing in the life of the people. So we hope this translates to the life of the people, the realities of the people. And then going downward on page 9, we see PDP crisis, the Magun Titans grip, as state chairman disown rival leadership. And on page 9, we can also find on page 9, first declaration of assets, tackle backlog of cases, CJN tells tribunal. And FEC approves 43 billion for Lagos Ibadan highway. We saw this on the Daily Sun newspaper and also on the Nation's newspaper. At FEC approves 43 billion naira for Lagos Ibadan highway, east-west roads, and others. And this is, like I said before, these are some of the things we are calling for when we talk about innovation, when we talk about growth, when we talk about development of a nation, and we like to see this. We hope that the Lagos-Ibadan highway comes to reality, so it can, enable businesses thrive, enable people move from one place to another. And in sports, we see UCL Osimhen overtakes Haaland, Kane, Mbappe, and Europe's no one striker. I mean, since the beginning of this year, Osimhen has been on the news, on sports news, hearing day in, day out. We've been seeing Osimhen on the news, and he's doing wonders. And this is not just for sports, this is not just for Osimhen, but it is for Nigeria as a country. And then I guess that's all we have on the Vanguard newspaper. Let's see what other newspapers are saying. Let's see what the Punch is saying. Okay. Still, the big story is still on Tinubu, President Tinubu. I think President Tinubu is taking all the major stories of all the newspapers in the country. Tinubu rallies foreign allies as not rejects Sharia ban, and you can find this on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. And going up, we see APC, Wike blasts PDP over U.S. embassy protests. You can find this on page 7 to know what Wike is talking about and what he actually means about this. And FG vows to crush terror networks. NEF, ACF rejects U.S. move to outlaw Sharia. There's going to be a real struggle here, a serious war. That's why we are still calling that there should be a proper dialogue as regards President Trump's threats to Nigeria. There should be a proper dialogue because Nigeria is a diverse country. We have different states, different people, different colors, different, every human beings, we have different thinking. So there should be a proper dialogue as to see how we can coexist as one. Because in Nigeria, I do not believe that there is diversity. I feel like we have different religions, we have different beliefs, and we have been thriving as one for the longest. And this is not the time where we say we are divided. We have always lived as one people. We have always lived in unison. And I hope that President Donald Trump understands this and step in and make himself available to, dialogue with Nigerian leaders and see how we can, push this once and for all. But one thing that is paramount here is that security is key, and we cannot deny that. We know that every government that comes into power in Nigeria have been fighting to see and to ensure that Nigeria is secure. And we hope that there is a proper dialogue to ensure that Nigeria is secured, and not just Nigeria, even the rest of the world. And let's move to see what other stories on the Punch newspaper is saying. Anambra poll. INEC distributes sensitive materials, 55,000 policemen mobilized. You can find this on page 15 to know what that story is all about. And on page 23, still on the Punch newspaper, vehicle imports slide 10% on weak consumer spending. Vehicle imports slide 10% on weak consumer spending. I can say Nigerians are I know I can vouch for this, that Nigerians always import cars, and it's, I mean, causing some imports slide down, but you can find this on page 23 to know what this story is really all about. And Pretty Mike gets 50 million naira bail for alleged drug offense. Who knows Pretty Mike knows Pretty Mike. Yeah. You can find this on page 4 and 5, still on the Punch newspaper, and that's for the entertainment scene. And newly inaugurated Tinubu campaign office demolished in Benue State. When are we going to have a good news come out from Benue State? I mean, we've seen a whole lot of sort of sad news, bad news from Benue State. But then, to know what this story really is and what it's really talking about, you can find this on page 14 of the Punch newspaper. And on page 11, FG rollout plans to tackle food shortage. Very, very important. And on page 24, Abuja Disco sacks 800 workers amid power crisis. And FEC okays biometric flights boarding PH Airport concession. Page 27. So FEC gets Port Harcourt Airport is going to be handed over to a private, not fully a private ownership, but a public-private ownership, and we want to see that, and it's for the good according to the government there. They want to see how, and according to Keyamo, they want to see how they can scale up, you know, services in Port Harcourt Airport, and this is good. We want to see what they do with that. And that's it from the Punch newspaper. Let's see what the New Telegraph newspaper is saying. Okay, we are engaging power diplomatically will defeat terrorism. Still the big story here on the New Telegraph newspaper. You can find this on page 2, 3, 27, and 30 of the New Telegraph newspaper. And then still on 3 and 4, page 3 and 4, FEC okays design construction of houses, 4 heads of courts in the FCT, and Tinubu swears in Doro Ude as minister. Okay, on page 7 and 31, we can find a story that says Senate absolves airpiece of negligence drug use by its pilots. Banfrere petitions Senate over LASG's refusal to release his property. You can find this on page 7 and 31 to know what that story is about. And on safety, house owners within airports to lose their properties to government. This is on page 5. So if you're a house owner in along the airport side in Port Harcourt, you should see what this story is talking about in order to you know, prepare you for what's to come. And G24, Edon named chair, pledges to focus on 5 strategic areas. You can also find this on page 5 of the New Telegraph newspaper. And if we go up of the newspaper, we see telecoms. What telecoms are saying that Nigerians spent 2.5 trillion naira on data in 9 months. Within 9 months, starting from January 2025 to September 2025, Nigerians spent an estimated 2.5 trillion on data, consuming a total of 9.3 million terabytes of data, as active subscribers rise to 173.5 million. An expenditure was calculated by New Telegraph based on an average market rate of 265,000 for 1 terabyte of data and figure. To know what this story is about, to have a full context of what the story is saying, you can find this on page 3 of the New Telegraph newspaper. AMCON's plan to point receiver manager over GHL unlawful management. And this can be found on page 6, still on the New Telegraph newspaper. And going downwards, we see Fitch, Nigeria's banking recap, strategy most ambitious in SSA, and this can be found on page 25 of the New Telegraph newspaper. And reps begin probe of security intervention funds. This can be found on page 5 of the New Telegraph newspaper. Anambra Guba voter apathy global apathy will be our greatest challenge, says INEC. All road leads to, I can say all road leads to Anambra. All road leads to Anambra election. And you can find this on page 2, 7, 9, and 10, still on the New Telegraph newspaper. As voters elect new governor in 5,718 polling units, police commence air surveillance as 45,000 security personnel arrive at Oka. Over 600 foreign observers, Yaga Africa, CSOs, flood states, all in preparation for Anambra's gubernatorial election. And then on page 4 of the New Telegraph newspaper, PDP crisis, you may be lucky now, but karma's real. Damagun wants a state chairman's forum pledges support. And on page 27, that's underneath the New Telegraph newspaper, pesticide exposure may lower sperm count. And this is a study. I think men, including women, will be interested to, see what that report or that study is talking about. And I'll move into Daily Trust newspaper. On page 16, 3 teachers attend 207 pupils in FCT. This is not so good. This doesn't look so good or sounds so good. But if you want to know what that's really about, you can find it on page 16 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And 15% tariff petrol may cost 1,028 liters for diesel and 1,194 naira per liter. You can find this on page 19. FEC okays $396 million credit for IDP's Sokoto Health Project. You can find this on page 22 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And still the biggest story taking the front page here in most of the newspapers we've seen this morning, and still on the Daily Trust newspaper taking the biggest story. The front page here is U.S. threat, Tinubu response to Trump. President Bola Tinubu yesterday responded to the threat of a military action in Nigeria by President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. Tinubu assured that his government was engaging with the world diplomatically over the situation between the country, Nigeria, and the U.S. And Trump alleged that, we all know that Trump alleged that there's Christian genocide in Nigeria, and he designated the country as country of particular, concern, and warned that if Nigerian government continues to allow the killings of Christians, then the U.S. will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. And Nigerians are saying that comes out like a threat. Is it a threat? Is it a warning that the U.S. are going to invade soon? Because we're already seeing the 3 phases by the U.S. military being rolled out. The first phase is going to be light, medium, and heavy. And the American president had introduced, the U.S. Department of War, which was formerly the Department of Defense. And now the U.S. president is saying it's now the Department of War. What does that sound like? What does that sound like to us? Do we want to see possible actions from the Department of War, which was formerly the Department of Defense? I guess that's where Nigerians are scared a little. Not like we are scared, but we are scared because when you change a department from the Department of Defense to the Department of War, we begin to ask questions. What does this imply? What does this imply? And Tinubu had on Saturday said that through the state, he rejected all of these designations and said the country is ready to tackle our problem. He responds to President Donald Trump. But then we move from that story because that story has been taking the whole of this week, and we'll see where we go with that. But we look down on the Daily Trust newspaper. We see despite peace deals, bandits kill 2 Katsina communities. And this can be found on page 23 of the Daily Trust newspaper. And Chief Imam killed over alleged witchcraft in Kwara State. So this is one for culture, and this can be found on page 22 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Cameroon's Paul Biya sworn in for 8th term. This can be found on page 25, and he has a lot of pledges for youth reform, economic reform, especially targeting the youth. I guess that's what the youth in the country has been clamoring for, because a lot of people have been asking, is it the president's age? Paul Biya is 92 years. Is it the president's age that is the problem? Or are there systemic downturns in most of Africa's governmental systems, most of Africa's leadership systems? Is it the leadership that is the problem at this point in time? We want to know. And the president this time is pledging that he is going to reform the economy, and his targets are the youth. We like to see this, we like to hear this, but we hope that all of these are met. We don't want it to just be talks and met on papers at the end of the day. And then moving on, we see on page 22, still on the Daily Trust newspaper, Lagos gets new federal varsity amidst 7-year ban. Okay, and that's it for the Daily Trust newspaper. Moving to the last newspaper of today, and this is on Nigerian Tribune. And yes, still taking the biggest, taking all of the front page of this newspaper as the biggest story yet. Tinubu vows defeat of terrorism as U.S. military drafts action plans. This can be found on page 2 and 3. Present challenges are passing phase. President says we have open diplomatic channel with the U.S. I guess this is the right step to take. And also, U.S. Congress seeks sanctions on groups, individuals over religious violence. You're already seeing that the U.S. are already sanctioning Miyetti Allah and seizing and freezing some of his assets. And then Trump's stance, a weak call up, Dixon says. Okay, that can be found in, that story can be found in page 2 and 3 if you want to know more about it. And on PDP crisis, the state party chairman backed the Magoon's NWC. This can be found on page 5 and insists on Ibadan Convention, Adeleke not joining ADC aid. And on page 31 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, Oyo approves construction of Ido Akufo Eruwa, Igboho Kishi Roads. Hope I'm not murdering those names, the names of these places. But this can be found on page 31 if you want to know what this story is saying, what it's talking about. And then downwards of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, Anambra poll, Amopitan faces first test tomorrow, and EU deploys 687 observers, 98.8% PVCs collected for election. INEC INEC says, and then OB6 credible election kicks against vote buying. This can be found on page 4 of the Nation Tribune. And in the health segment, combining vaping and smoking increases risks of prediabetes by 28%. A study shows. If you want to know what this study is talking about and what it's saying, if you want to have a better context of it, you can find it on page 31 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. And then let's go upwards, in case I skipped that. APC 2027, APC plots control of Northeast. Taraba governor may defect on November 19. Opened discussion with Adamawa governor. And this can be found on page 6 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. And economy rebounding, inflation easing, says finance minister. FEC approves $396 million loans for IDPs. All these can be found on page 11 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. So going back to the first newspaper, one of the and all of the newspapers this morning, the major story here that is taking the headlines is taking all over the front pages of all of these newspapers is President Tinubu's response to President Trump, that's the president of the U.S., and the president is pledging that not just pledging, the president is coming out to say that we are ready to tackle our issues, and also we are not shunning the aid that is coming from, or the concerns too, if I can call it concerns, that is coming from the U.S. president, from the foreign scene. We are welcome to it, but with open, constructive, diplomatic and civil dialogue. And we like that the president is up on his feet and is ready to tackle this issue once and for all. We want to see a safe Nigeria. We want to see a Nigeria that is secured and, conducive for everyone to live. We don't want to see people, we've seen even the Nobel laureate, Wole Soyinka, come out to talk about issues concerning this, on how his visa was revoked. And this all still boils down to this designation of Nigeria's country of particular concern. It's going to affect every aspect of our life as Nigerians: travel, business, education. So we must do something about it now. We must ensure we reinstate our dignity, we revitalize our country, and ensure that our country goes back to being, because it still is the strongest in Africa, the biggest, the lion of Africa, and we must ensure that we uphold that name in all essence of the word, or the phrase lion of Africa. But that's it from me here. That's all I have for you from the newspaper review segment. Join me next week tomorrow, join me tomorrow on the newspaper segment. And yes, very excited to announce that the first edition of the Idea Universities of Interest is here. Yes, I was thinking drums were going to roll for that one, but yes, it is available for download on our website at www.ideatvlive.com, and you can also find the videos are out there. The audio videos are available on Limex, on YouTube, and all our social media pages. And good thing, I always tell you, I bring you good news, that it's free. It's free for download, so you can download and read if you have been wanting to know about universities in Africa that are not just universities in Africa, but universities in Africa that are doing wonderful things, that are doing innovating, groundbreaking ideas, that are pushing the boundaries of Africa to the world. You can find that on Idea TV's bulletin. And some of the universities we are recognizing and honoring in this future is the University of Cape Town, UCT, South Africa, the University of Egypt, and also that's Cairo University, and the University of Mohammed VI Polytechnic, that UM is popularly known as UM6P, and of course the University of Witwatersrand, that's in South Africa, or simply the University of Wits. These are universities that are developing groundbreaking ideas. They are impacting community. Most importantly, they're impacting community, and of course they're in line with the AU's Agenda 2063. And we want to see what we want to see you engage. We want to see you like, comment, subscribe. Tell us which university you already know about that is doing all of these things, even among these four. Tell us more universities you know that are rolling out groundbreaking ideas. We want to hear from you, because who knows, we might feature them on the next edition of the Idea Universities of Interest. But that's it from me here on the newspaper review. I'll see you next time, or see you tomorrow. My name is Cynthia Bassi. Thank you.